All right, and welcome back to Gabe's Fantasy Corner. Gabe, what do you have for us this week?
Well, Chase, I have a whole bunch for you. We're going to start with the sell highs. I'm going to get right into it. First, sell high. Name a Piston, really. Any Piston over the age of 25 is most likely going to be rested and get fairly limited minutes past the All-Star break. People like Jeremy Grant, people like Mason Plumlee, DeLon Wright, they're going to be all taken out in favor of players like Isaiah Stewart, Saban Lee,
Sadiq
Bey. Yeah, respectively so.
If you have a player like Jeremy Grant, sell him while he is high. He will be resting every single back-to-back this year.
Yes, he will. Which is definitely going to hurt your fantasy team if you cannot get rid of him.
And right now they haven't officially released that he's sitting back every back-to-back, but it is theorized. So before it's official, you should try to sell high on Jeremy Grant.
Mm-hmm. And then another sell high I have is one DeJounte Murray from the San Antonio Spurs. Over the last 2 weeks, he's putting up top 3 fantasy value numbers. He's shooting 52% from the field, 90% from the line, going 27, 11, and 6 with 2 steals a game and 0 turnovers.
Those are insane numbers.
A lot of it's because of the postponement, so there's limited games in that sample size, but he's still going off. And he's an obvious sell high for obvious reasons. DeRozan's just come back. He's going to be playing.
DeRozan will play tonight.
Minutes. Yeah.
Coming back from personal reasons.
But obviously, if you want to keep DeJounte, I understand. He's still a great source of steals. On the season, he's averaging 16, 7, and 5, so he's still going to get you everything. Well-rounded guy. Hard to find on the fantasy wire.
Especially a point guard that gets 7 boards a game.
Yeah.
Is valuable. It's a good selling point if you're trying to sell high on him right now.
Yeah. And then, next for the buy lows. These are a pair of Celtics that are both buy lows, actually. For the time being, at least, because they're going to bounce back pretty quick, I have a feeling. Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown just came off of a 15-point game and a 17-point game where he shot around 40% each game. No threes. Which is tough as a fantasy owner that's used to getting over 2.5 threes a game, around 25 points.
So, who knows? If you have an owner that's quick to pull triggers on trades and they have Jaylen Brown, throw an offer out there. Maybe Jeremy Grant. And then the next one is Jason Tatum, who's been in much more of a dry spell than Jaylen. Jason is putting up stats over the last 2 weeks of shooting 36% from the field for 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists with about a steal and a block. So he's still getting his counting stats, but the percentage is really low, and I can see owners worrying about that.
All right. Now, if you're an owner of Tatum, are you worrying or are you trying to sell him? Because I don't think it gets much worse than this.
Personally, I would hold on to him because he's a unique type of fantasy player all around, and he's going to bounce back. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but I think right now is the perfect time to try to throw a trade offer.
Great time to go for him.
It's rare that a first-round player will do this bad that you have a chance to get a shot at him.
Yes. All right, so for the pickups, I have quite a few pickups, actually. The first I want to go over is Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is going to get minutes because, what's his face?
Oh.
Alfred Payton. Alfred Payton's out with a hamstring injury. So, and you also know that Emmanuel Quickley is not going to start because of Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah.
So the guy you want to pick up.
Loves Derrick Rose.
The guy you want to pick up is Derrick Rose.
I could see his minutes shooting up to around 35 per game.
Yeah. And over the last week, he's averaging 13, 3, and 6 almost with about a steal. So he's doing well. Low turnovers. He's a guy that you want to go for off the waiver wire if he's available. He's owned in 62% of Yahoo leagues right now, though. So, and then next is Malik Monk.
Malik Monk has been balling these last 4 games.
Yeah, Malik Monk has been, but he's also another guy. He's not going to be. He's a short-term fantasy pickup. He's over the last 2 weeks averaging 4 threes with 21 points and 5 boards. Not much else.
Yeah, I believe last game he got 25 points, right?
Yeah, and he's hitting 4 threes a game, too, over the last 2 weeks.
It's insane.
And then the last pickup I have to mention is Teo Maladon, who's more of a deep league pickup, but he's a guy I really like. He's hitting threes. He's a good free throw shooter, hitting 6 assists over the last week with steals and Yeah, what do you have to say about Teo Maladon?
I think it's crazy that he's putting up those numbers, especially with Shea and Lou Dort playing so well recently.
Yeah.
Both had Lou Dort just came off a 4 3-pointer game. Shea had that 42-pointer earlier this week. It's crazy that he's putting up the type of production he is.
Yeah. No, he's definitely an intriguing guy for the late season too.
Definitely a deeper league guy.
Yeah.
If you're in a shallow league, he's not going to give you much. But
14-team league, if you can hold on to him like a little stash for the late season spike, that's a guy you'd want to hold on to.
And I think most of the guys on the Pistons roster. So we talked about how the Pistons are selling. You should sell high on all your Pistons players above 25. I think that also goes that you should buy low on anyone under 25. Yeah. So right now, Saban Lee, he is just on the market. I know Yahoo sent the notification out that everyone should go pick him up.
Yeah, I saw
it sucks for fantasy owners because I was stashing him away. Saban Lee is balling right now, along with Sadiq Bey.
Yes, Sadiq Bey is also... That's another guy I actually would want to go over, but I'm going to go over him a little bit later. First, I want to go over two defensive stat specialists.
Okay.
Because defensive stats is something that's very hard to come by, and they can be very useful streamers in even shallower leagues. First specialist is TJ McConnell, who over the last 2 weeks is averaging 2.5 steals with 6 assists a game. And over the last month, it's almost 8 assists with 2 steals. So that's where are you going to find that? He's averaging more assists than Kyle Lowry over that stretch, more steals than LaMelo.
And he's shooting over 50%, right?
And he's shooting over 50%. He's shooting 57% over the last 2 weeks, which is insane.
Yeah, solid pickup. And Malcolm Brogdon's a game-time decision today. TJ McConnell might be the right guy. He might get...
Great DFS
he usually
option.
does get the start. But with Brogdon out, this is a great option, especially for, as you were saying, daily fantasy.
Yeah. And then my other guy I wanted to go over is more of a block specialist, and his name's Jakob Pirtle.
Jakob Pirtle.
Yeah, and over the last 2 weeks, he's averaging 3 blocks a game, which is early round value as far as blocks go. And he's also pairing that up with 10 boards, 7 points, and almost 3 assists, which is pretty cool. The one knock on him, though, is obviously his free throw percentage. He's currently shooting 31% from the line this year, which is a little low, if you ask me.
So,
a little bit.
I personally was looking to go pick up Jakob. We're a shallow league. We're only 8 teams.
Yeah.
I was looking to go pick up Jakob, but my free throw percentage was so close that I couldn't. But how many attempts realistically? Say I'm a fantasy owner, right? And I wanted to pick up Jakob Pirtle. How many attempts does he take per game?
Over the last 2 weeks, he's shooting almost 3 free throws a game, which is actually something that could put a little dent in your free throw percentage, especially in deeper leagues. So
1 for 3 from the line will not help you.
Not at all.
But is solid with blocks. It's hard to find another guy that gets 3 blocks a game, especially when you're right there in 9-cat leagues. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of us are close in blocks. He'd be a solid streamer pickup.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to go over Sadiq Bey one more time, actually. Okay. We went over him last week, but I like him so much, I'm just going to talk about him again. Last 2 weeks, he's putting up solid 3 and D numbers. He's shooting 45%, which is right about where I thought his average would fall. 3 threes a game, 5 boards, 13 points, 1.5 steals. This is a guy who could even contribute in a shallower league. That's top 50 value right there. I don't know if it's going to be sustainable right now, but once the veterans start to sit, he's going to get a major spike in minutes, and he's someone to look over.
Imagine Jeremy Grant sitting out, and all these guys on the Pistons that are soaking up his minutes. He's going to flourish.
Once Wayne Ellington gets bought out, too, he won't have any playing time.
Yeah.
And then I got some more notes here. I'd like to once again talk about Draymond Green, who I love these stat lines, these fantasy stat lines he's coming up with. Last game, he went 11, 12, and 19 against the Charlotte Hornets. Do you have any comments on that?
I think that's an insane game.
That's insane.
A triple-double with 19 assists is something you won't see in fantasy. Super valuable. Now, I have a question for you, right? Is this sustainable? Is what he's doing right now, because think about it. The last couple weeks, his assists have been insane. We're talking over double-digit assists, right? Mm-hmm. Is this sustainable, and is he the perfect guy to buy out or to sell high?
This is going to be a little controversial, but I think maybe like 9.5 assists is sustainable for him this year. I could honestly see that, and I know a lot of people won't agree with that, but his role's not going to change. If anything, he's going to have a bigger role as they try to get more into the playoffs, because they're a playoff team right now, and he's going to be soaking up a lot of minutes because he's very important to that Warriors team, and he's also getting a lot of great defensive stats, which he gets. He was playing himself into shape earlier this season, so it wasn't really there, but now that he's in shape, he's averaging 1.5 steals and blocks over the last 2 weeks. So I think he's a guy that you might want to actually hold on to.
Yeah.
If you can deal with the shoddy percentages at points.
I see what you're talking about when you're talking about how many assists he has and if it's sustainable. Because he is their act-in point guard right now. He's the point guard for the Warriors.
Yeah, Steph's
he makes all the passes.
League,
Steph is moving off ball. He could sustain it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for a big to have that many assists, it's valuable.
Yeah. All right, I have one more name to go over for fantasy. A little bit more of a deeper league guy. His name's Saban Lee, and he's another Detroit Piston.
Yeah.
Over the last week, he's went from 0% owned to 22% owned in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. Last 2 weeks, his stat line is looking like 13, 3, and 3 with 2 steals a game. And he's shooting 60% from the field, which is unsustainable, but I still like the progress that he's making this year. And he's also a little bit of a shoddy free throw percenter, three-point percentage shooter, shooting about 61% from the free throw line this year. Any comments on Saban Lee?
I think Saban Lee's a solid player with high upside.
I think he's more of a deep league guy, too.
He could be a deep league guy, but he could even be in the more shallow leagues, around 8 people, because I see him getting lots of minutes once these veterans sit. Mm-hmm. Especially with Blake Griffin, Mason Plumlee, and Jeremy Grant sitting, someone's got to score. And it looks like Saban Lee and Sadiq Bey are going to be those guys.
I have a question for you here.
Yeah.
If you could pick between these 2 young point guards, who would you pick? Saban Lee or Teo Maladon?
For fantasy.
Yes.
I would pick Saban Lee right now because of his steals. But that's because I value the defensive stats a lot more.
Well, hold on 1 second. Can you elaborate on that a little more, actually?
Yeah. So, Saban Lee right now, I see more upside with him. I see Teo Maladon getting a little less minutes because there is Shea and Lou Dort there. Even though he's been doing it with both of them, I see a little higher ceiling with Saban Lee. He'd be a guy that I could go put a waiver on and hope he pays off.
I see. Well, this is where we would contrast here. I would rather have Teo. Over the last month, he's averaging 1.7 steals. And he's hitting threes, shooting 94% from the line, and shooting 44% from the field. And I don't know. I just see him once George Hill gets moved, and I think he will get moved. I think Teo will start at the 1 possibly, and then Shea at the 2. And I think Teo's going to get all the run that he can, honestly, off the ball from Shea. And he's a really good on-ball defender. He gets defensive stats like Saban. And he won't hurt you in any efficiency categories. So that's the guy I'd pick. And he hits a couple more threes, I think. So
I think that's a solid take. I didn't think about George Hill being moved. I forgot about that. One guy I wanted to talk about. And you could check up on what % owned he is, because I'm not really sure. But Royce O'Neil. So Royce O'Neil last night dished out 6 assists, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 1 steal, and 2 threes.
Yeah.
So he's not overwhelming you with stats, but he doesn't hurt you in anything.
Yeah, he's a good fill-in guy.
I've been looking at him for a while. What % owned is he?
He is right now 34% owned. So he's available in a lot of your Yahoo leagues if you want to pick him up.
So he could be one of those guys you pick up easy. Yeah. He's very valuable. He gives you a little bit of everything. And then how many blocks does he average?
Over the last month, he's averaging about 0.7 blocks and 0.9 steals. So
solid
he can get you
defensive stats. And as he showed last night, 6 assists. Everyone on the Jazz, the thing is the Jazz are blowing out teams right now.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows. He's getting a lot of run.
Yes, he is.
When they're up 20, they are playing Royce O'Neil.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Royce O'Neil. So
Royce O'Neil's a solid player, gives you a little bit of everything, and then his stats aren't bad anywhere.
And
he's not getting turnovers.
Too.
He's consistent. He's not getting turnovers. His field goal percentage is pretty good. His free throw percentage is pretty good. He's not hurting you in any way, but does a little bit of everything.
This is actually a good segue for me. I know I was going to say that was my last guy, Saban Lee, but I actually have another guy I want to talk about who has a very similar game to Royce O'Neil, at least on fantasy terms. Josh Hart.
Josh Hart is solid.
Yeah. Over the last month, he's averaging 10, 7, and 2.6. Reminds me of a discount version of 2017 Avery Bradley, if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
He had this year
I can see that. That's a good one.
A lot of rebounds. But this is something that we know is in Josh Hart's game. He's been a rebounder. He's been a hustler. And I really like his game, his fantasy game. What do you have to say about that?
I think that's a solid pickup. What percent owned is he?
He's gone up 12% over the last week. He's now 42% rostered.
42%. So that means in most Yahoo leagues, especially deeper leagues, if he's available, I think he's a must-have.
He's top 100 guy right now, so
12-team leagues, even 10-team leagues, he's a necessary have.
Yeah. He does a little bit of everything for you, especially if your big men are a little weak or you got a couple big men hurt. He's a wing that can get you some boards.
Yeah, especially if you're right there and you need a pickup, right? So you're right there in a 9-cat league and you need some rebounds. He'd be perfect at the guard position. It's hard to find.
Yeah.
So to have a guard that could grab you 7 boards in a game is valuable.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Is that anything else you want to add to the fantasy section, Gabe?
No, I think that's about it for me on fantasy. That's Gabe's Fantasy Corner. That's just how I see it. So.
All right. Gabe's Fantasy Corner. All right. And we're going to move on to the next segment. Tune in. We're also going to post the fantasy segment separate. Gabe's Fantasy Corner.